get it!
Season 6, episode 18 of The Sopranos, titled Kennedy and Heidi, contains one of the most enigmatic moments in the entire series. After killing Christopher, Tony chooses to travel to Las Vegas and take peyote in the desert. As he stares into the night sky, he suddenly shouts, "I get it." For years, viewers have debated what exactly Tony understood in that moment. Is it a spiritual awakening? A moment of enlightenment? A breakthrough? I think it's something much darker. Tony doesn't discover a higher truth. He discovers that he no longer cares about being a good person. To understand why I think this, we have to start with Christopher's death. Christopher isn't just Tony's nephew. He's his surrogate son, a protege, and one of the few people Tony genuinely loves. Before the accident, there's a brief moment where Tony stares at Christopher. Tony, in this moment, realises Christopher is high again, and it's almost as if he finally accepts Christopher can never truly be helped. Tony chooses to accept that they have both failed each other and decides to make idle chit-chat instead of trying to tackle Christopher's issues and help him.
So how was your party that day at the house? Fuck down, will you?
After the car accident, Tony makes a conscious decision to end Christopher's life. He watches as he struggles to breathe and chooses to pinch his nose and suffocate the life out of him, staring into his eyes as he does it. Tony's reaction afterwards is truly terrifying. He doesn't feel devastated, he feels relieved. Almost immediately, Tony begins focusing on the benefits of Christopher's death and tries to justify it. Christopher was unreliable, he was a junkie, he was dangerous, but beneath those rationalizations lies something more disturbing. For perhaps the first time in his life, Tony is experiencing genuine freedom. Freedom from responsibility, freedom from guilt, freedom from Christopher. And then the show gives us something truly unexpected. We witness Tony in his absolute, raw, unfiltered mind for the first time in the entire series.
This is pain like I'm not used to.
We've said before he was like a son in some ways.
See him die like that. Practically in my arms.
He was just starting his life.
Yeah. You know what? This is bullshit.
What?
I haven't been able to tell anybody this, but I'm fucking relieved.
Really?
He was a tremendous drag on my emotions, on my thoughts about the future. I mean, to begin with, every morning I wake up thinking, is today the day that one of my best friends is gonna dime me to the FBI? And a weak, fucking, sniveling, lying drug addict? That's the worst kind of bet. The biggest blunder of my career is now gone. And I don't have to be confronted by that fact no more. And as a relative, a friend, someone you can count on,
I see.
Let me tell you something. I've murdered friends before, even relatives. My cousin Tony, my best friend, Bush. But this? Was I talking in my sleep?
Snoring.
This recontextualizes the entire show to the viewers. Can we trust anything this man has ever said in his therapy sessions? After doing all of this, there's no breakdown, there's no punishment for him, and there's not an ounce of remorse. The universe remains silent. In fact, things seem to improve for Tony. When he heads to Vegas, he starts winning at gambling. He indulges in all of his desires. He cheats on Carmela again with a woman Christopher was seeing. Could this potentially be highlighting Tony's deep-rooted desire to sleep with Adriana? And him choosing to do this now is to spite Christopher, because Tony chose to restrain himself while she was alive. If Tony can't have Adriana, Sonia will have to do.
He's dead.
What? What?
Everything in Tony's life feels lighter. From Tony's perspective, the universe appears to be rewarding him. This is why the peyote trip is so important. Many viewers interpret the desert sequence as a spiritual experience, and visually it certainly resembles one. Tony stands beneath the stars, overwhelmed by a revelation. But what if this revelation isn't spiritual? What if it's nihilistic? What if Tony suddenly realises that there is no cosmic force keeping score? There is no divine judgment, not even moral accounting. And there's no consequences. Christopher is dead, and Tony feels better. And just like that, life goes on. And that's what Tony gets. For the entire series, Tony's conscience has functioned as a sort of restrainment. Guilt has restrained him, shame has restrained him, and fear has restrained him. His panic attacks, his therapy sessions, and his self-justifications have all stemmed from an ongoing conflict between the person he was and the person he wanted to believe he was. That's the conflict that drives the entire series. Tony wants to see himself as a loving father and a caring husband, just a victim of circumstance. Yet his actions repeatedly contradict that image. He cheats, he steals, he murders, and he lies. The genius of The Sopranos is that it forces us to watch Tony maintain these contradictions simultaneously. And therapy only complicates things further. In theory, therapy should help Tony confront the truth about himself, but instead, it gives him more sophisticated language to explain away his behaviour. Every insight becomes another rationalisation. Every breakthrough becomes another excuse. By the final season, Tony has become incredibly skilled at protecting himself from self-reflection. Which brings us to a quote from Series 1, Episode 5. "No man can wear one face to himself and another to the multitude without finally getting bewildered as to which may be the true one." This quote perfectly captures Tony's psychological journey. For years, Tony has wore two faces, one face belonging to the family man and the other belonging to the mob boss. The tension between these two identities creates the central drama of the series, but over time, the barrier separating them has collapsed, and Christopher's death finally forces the issue. Because if Tony can murder someone he genuinely loves, and be rewarded, then what remains of the moral person he imagined himself to be? The answer is simple. Nothing. This is why I Get It isn't a moment of enlightenment. It's a moment of surrender. Tony isn't discovering who he is. He's finally accepting it. The internal struggle that defined him for 6 seasons comes to an end. The criminal self wins, the guilt disappears, and the mask falls away. For most people, this realization would be horrifying, but for Tony, it's liberating. That's why he laughs, and that's why he celebrates. That's why he throws his arms towards the sky. He's experiencing what feels like freedom from the burden of conscience. But from the audience perspective, the moment is terrifying in incomprehensible levels, because what Tony experiences as liberation looks remarkably like spiritual death. The man who spent years trying to reconcile his morality with his criminality finally stops trying. The rationalizations are no longer necessary. The defences are no longer necessary. And the shame is no longer necessary. For the first time, Tony sees himself clearly, and what he sees doesn't disturb him anymore. And that's what makes Kennedy and Heidi the darkest episode of The Sopranos.